Another great win for the Sixers last night, this time against the San Antonio Spurs. And even though Philadelphia was down a couple of starters, Tyrese Maxey was the star. They're calling him 50-piece Reese after he dropped a new career high, 52 points. Spam Zero, his jersey number, down in the comment section. Let's talk about these sneaky, white-hot Philadelphia 76ers right now. All right, welcome into the show. Let's do it. Hope all of you out there had a fantastic weekend and your weeks are off to a great start. This is 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. And coming up on today's show, Sixers picking up a huge win without Joel Embiid to really shake up the standings in the Eastern Conference standings. Philadelphia taking down the San Antonio Spurs in a wild 2-overtime game, which we were riding the seesaw for, going back and forth, up and down. Final score, 133-126. And of those 133 points, Tyrese Maxey scored 52 of them. He even said after the game, I really had to will myself to do this, get through some of that soreness. We're down a couple of starters, and I had to come to play. And boy, did Tyrese Maxey come to play. 52 points. Sixers needed every one of those points. 5 rebounds, 7 assists. I think this is what's most impressive about that outing last night in South Texas. He took 41 shots. He nailed 19 of those field goals. So about 50% right there. Hella impressive. And then he was a perfect 12 of 12 from the free throw line. The play that Nick Nurse drew up at the end of regulation when the Sixers were down by 2 to get Maxey streaking free to the basket, Glenn Rivers would never do that. Once again, that's the beauty of Nick Nurse being this head coach. It feels so great to have an elite coach on the sideline finally for Philadelphia. Best Sixers head coach since Larry Brown, and I don't think it's all that close. Most 50-point games in a single season now for the 76ers. We've seen Joel Embiid have multiple of them this year, including the 70-plus point game, and then Tyrese Maxey have a couple of them too. So most 50-point games in a single season. Wilt Chamberlain, 5. Not a surprise there. He was playing against cats like me. Allen Iverson with 3. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey also with 3. And I talked about what Maxey said after the game, just willing himself and the team to victory. Here's also what he had to say further. It's the playoffs. I was going to do whatever I could, no matter how tired or how sore I was going to give everything I had to help us win. And it's so cool to see a young player fall to the Sixers in the 20s of the draft a few years ago out of Kentucky, all thanks to Mike Muscala hitting the NBA bubble three-pointer. But then to see him care about the game, care about his teammates, understand the gravity of what it's like to play basketball in the city of Philadelphia, but then to get in the lab and work on his craft so that he takes monumental leap after monumental leap each and every year that he's been in the NBA. And with Joel Embiid out for 2 months, he carried the load on so many occasions. And with the Sixers hot, jockeying for playoffs positioning in the Eastern Conference, Joel Embiid gets a much-needed rest day. You're down a couple of other starters, and he drops 52 points. I don't care that it was in double overtime. It's how he did it. It's how he looked in doing it, 19 of 41. And this is coming off the heels of that fantastic performance in a must-win game against the Miami Heat. Tyrese Maxey's hooping right now. He's playing his best basketball, approaching the playoffs. And anytime you have a deadly 2-star combination, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, you're going to be a threat in the NBA playoffs. And you pair that with an elite head coach and really good complementary role players, the ingredients are there for the Sixers to end the curse and get to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2001 if some of the playoff standings and the positioning in the East can work out in their favor, and of course, if they take care of business as well. And also, how about Kelly Oubre Jr.? I said this on the show on Friday. The basketball that he's played over the last couple of weeks, he's earning himself a bag. And unfortunately, he might be earning himself a payday that might be too rich for what the Sixers are able to pay him. But at the same time, Philadelphia is going to have the most cap space in the NBA. And do they devote some of that to Kelly Oubre Jr. because he's a good fit, athletic player, still young. I think he's been motivated by no teams being interested in him all throughout free agency. And this is just another really good performance for KO. 26 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He's getting it done on the defensive end of the floor. And that two-way impact has been evident. It's been paramount for the Sixers' success. 12 of 22 from the floor. The shooting numbers over the last couple of weeks have coincided, obviously, with the points production being there too. But it's almost like Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre Jr., they've taken ownership and they've grabbed this opportunity by the neck, knowing that it's a great opportunity for Maxey to solidify himself as a superstar in this league, earn a max deal, and then for Kelly Oubre Jr. to get paid too, but to put the Sixers team in a position to really be a dangerous team that nobody wants to play in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And Ricky Council Jr., when's the contract going to be converted to a regular NBA deal? He was big down the stretch. He played the entire fourth quarter in both overtimes, made a couple of big plays, made a couple of big shots, 11 points on the night against San Antonio, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. What he did defensively popped off the screen to me. He had 4 steals. All in all, producer Chip, a much needed win for the 76ers because you had the Indiana Pacers earlier in the day, I should say, on Sunday, beating the Miami Heat. Sixers could not afford to drop this game. They went down early. Then you saw the desperation start to settle in, and then Maxey did his thing, and he took over.
Absolutely. And, we'll take a look at the standings in a little bit, how that all shook up. But to win a game like this, again, not just down Embiid, but I know it's the Spurs. I know it's the Spurs. But, Again, you got down early, no Embiid, no Tobias, no Kyle Lowry, still no Covington, still no Melton. And the experience that Maxey's been able to gain over this whole stretch, really, without Embiid, just putting the team on his back, carrying the team every single game, it's just so important come playoff time. And, I think Maxey has really reached that level now where it's like, it's not Joel Embiid and then Maxey. It's Joel Embiid and Maxey. You got 2 top tier players in this league.
Yep.
If you're ranking guards, I'm not going to put a number on it, but Maxey's up there right now. And just the winning plays the team's been making. Shout out to Nick Nurse, that play you mentioned earlier, getting Maxey, that run towards the rim to send the game to overtime, tremendous. Seeing a player like Ricky Council not play the entire game, come in the fourth quarter, and then play the whole rest of the game, he had one tremendous pass, like wraparound pass to Batum for a corner 3. There was a play late in the game in the first overtime where Maxey drove in and got it to Council under the basket, and he got an and one to tie the game up. It was just winning plays all around. Nic Batum as well. Shout out to Nic Batum, who had a tremendous game. This team, with Nick Nurse, if Embiid's 100% or at least close to it, man, the Celtics, the Bucks, the Cavs, those teams up there, they should be scared. They should be afraid.
Couple of takeaways from what you said. Maybe we don't put a number on where Tyrese Maxey is among all guards, and technically he plays point guard, but it's all going to be telling when he gets all NBA votes. Might not be second team, maybe it's third team, but that goes to show you he's one of the top guards in the NBA. Secondly, quality coaching and good culture allows a player like Ricky Council, who's in and out of the rotation. Sometimes he gets DNP'd. Other times when 3 starters are down, as you mentioned, he has to play a big role. Doesn't play until late in the game, but he owns his role, takes advantage of his role. That's what quality coaching does. And then lastly, telling you right now, Cleveland Cavaliers, Milwaukee Bucks, Boston Celtics. In the first round, they do not want to play the Philadelphia 76ers. And if you look at what the Cavs have done over the last 10 games, they've struggled. And that's a first-round series. Book it. Philadelphia will beat Cleveland if that is the 6-3 matchup, even if that's the 2-7 matchup. One word to describe Tyrese Maxey's game. I got a couple of one words. Special, dominant, clutch, all of those apply. Coming up next, with this win, Philadelphia really shaking up the Eastern Conference standings. How, you may ask? We'll answer that coming up here in just a moment. First, this is the answer for your closet needs. The Sixers hoodie right here. And if you're looking to save some coin And if you're looking for a great deal, you see that link down below me, chatsports.com/Sixers hoodie. All of that applies. Was $90, now available for $54. We'll pop that item up on the screen right now as well. If it's not already there, chatsports.com/Sixers hoodie. That link is available for you down in the show notes of this video. So the Sixers winning, obviously, against San Antonio. And because now they actually have the best winning streak of any team in the NBA, they're matriculating up the Eastern Conference standings here. The top two spots continue to be unfazed and unchanged, where you have Boston and you have Milwaukee. But look who's in there at the number 3 spot in the Orlando Magic. Sixers against Magic, they're beating them. Sixers against the Knicks. I'd be confident in Philadelphia against New York. They're also without Julius Randle now. OG Anunoby's banged up. Philadelphia 76ers against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I genuinely like how Philadelphia matches up against any of those teams. Going up against Giannis and Dame in a playoff series will be very, very difficult for the Sixers. But what I like about where the Sixers are, and I could have added this in after Chip spoke, so often the Sixers have cratered under pressure, and the Sixers have fallen into the trap of having the pressure on them, and that's when they really struggle. Right now, they have the identity of this city, and the identity that this city really likes and prefers. That's the role of the underdog, where Philadelphia will not be the favorite in maybe any of their potential first-round matchups, especially against a team like Milwaukee. And knowing that Philadelphia has a chance to beat Milwaukee, Bucks have also been on the road, been awful on the road, and we know Glenn Small Game Rivers can choke that series away, where I think it's a massive matchup that favors Philadelphia when you have Nick Nurse on the same sideline as Glenn Rivers, because the edge certainly goes with Philadelphia. Now, there are a couple of paths for the Sixers here to get a better spot in the Eastern Conference playoff standings. That 6th seed is the most realistic, obviously. That's the one that they're really, really trying to get. Mathematically, they can get higher than that. But the 6th seed is really what they should be shooting for the reasons that we talked about. But also, I like the first-round matchups for Philadelphia against any of those aforementioned teams. The first path here is that Philadelphia just needs to win out. And they're already on this winning streak right now, and it's possible to continue that winning streak. Final 3 games of the regular season here: Detroit Pistons, Orlando Magic, and the Brooklyn Nets. Those are the final 3 games of the regular season. And then on top of that, you need the Pacers to lose 2 out of 3, because Philadelphia is 1 game behind Indiana, but they own the tiebreaker. So pretty much you're 2 games behind Indiana right now, and the Pacers owning that head-to-head tiebreaker, that could be the difference here. The Pacers' schedule, going up against the always feisty Toronto Raptors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who they're competing for that number 3, number 4, number 5 spot, and then the Atlanta Hawks, who them and the Chicago Bulls are going to meet in that 9-10 matchup in the play-in tournament. The Sixers still need Miami to also lose a game. Them losing against Indiana was good, but you're competing with both Indiana and Miami, and that's why the game became very, very paramount and important for Philadelphia, but it didn't really help you that those 2 teams were playing against one another. If Miami and Philly finish with the same record, even though the Sixers beat Miami a few days ago, Miami wins the tiebreaker. Why? Because they have a better conference record in the East. And this is where Joel Embiid being out for so long has kind of hurt Philadelphia. The Heat schedule here: Hawks, Mavericks, Raptors. So 2 games against Toronto to end the year. Hawks is going to be a difficult one. Mavericks is going to be a difficult game because Kyrie and Luka, they have both been balling, but that's the Heat schedule there. They have 4 games, so more room for error potentially for Miami. As of this moment, seems most likely Sixers going to play against the Heat in the play-in. Chip, are you confident that the Sixers win that game? The comeback the other night was great, but then the pressure gets ratcheted up a little bit when you're playing in an actual playoff game. and that game could be on the road in a hostile environment in Miami.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important for Philly, even if they can't get the 6th seed, which is not out of play. Indiana could certainly lose 2 of their last 3. They have to play Cleveland. If they lose that game, they go into that last game against Atlanta, all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, like we have to win this game, right? Yeah. Put the pressure on them. So we'll see. The Sixers can control what they can control. All you can do from your standpoint is win these final 3 games, right? I'd much rather play Miami in Philadelphia than have to go to Miami. You obviously, we've talked about it. You want to avoid Boston. You don't want to have to play in that play-in game to get that 8th seed and then go against Boston in the first round. The way it shakes up right now, again, mathematically, it's most likely the Sixers do drop to 8 unless Miami does somehow win one of these last 4 games, which of course is very, very possible. Yep. I would still feel confident against Miami, even if we get to play them in Miami. I think the Sixers are just a more talented team, more offensive explosiveness. The defense has been top tier when Embiid's in the lineup. So either way, I'd still pick the Sixers to win either of those games, whether it's on the road or at home in Philly. But man, if they can just get lucky and Indiana can just lose 2 of those games, even if a team like the Knicks or the Magic or the Cavs, it's possible that especially the Cavs, lose out because they've been so bad recently. They've lost 3 or 4 in a row at this point. It's even possible that a team like the Cavs could drop to the play-in. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's all mathematically possible. Again, we'll see where it plays out. And the Sixers, honestly, probably aren't too worried about it. They're going to focus on their own games. And whoever they play, and that'll be that.
Yeah, and you kind of match Philadelphia up against Miami. Like coaching, slight edge probably Eric Spoelstra, if we're being honest. Offense, Sixers. Defense, Philadelphia's been a very good defensive team this year. Miami's calling card is always defense. But look, you saw at the end of the game, when Philadelphia was leading for a lot of it, then Miami comes back, they take that lead. Their late game execution, not good. But they do have Jimmy Butler, who always plays well when it matters the most. So some thoughts there. If you're still rocking with us here at the end of the show, we appreciate you. That means that you watched the entire video. That means that you're also a real one. So type real one down below. We thank you so much for supporting the show. Great coverage still to come here on 76ers Now. Let's go.